On the 16th of May 2021, I released the Dark Side of Stardew Valley Part 1, and then 7 months later on Christmas Day, I released the Dark Side of Stardew Valley Part 2. However, it's been way over a year since that video, and there's still some things that we need to discuss. So, without further ado, welcome to the Dark Side of Stardew Valley Part 3, the third and final installment in the Dark Side of Stardew Valley series. Okay, so this is really some like level 1 type stuff. I don't know how I ever missed this in the first or second part of the Dark Side series, but yeah. In this segment, we're going to be looking at Leah, or more specifically, Leah's ex. Leah is one of the town's bachelorettes who lives in a small cottage just outside of Pelican town. Now, I'll talk about her odd place of residence and financial situation later in the video, but for now, we need to look at Leah's main overarching theme. Basically, Leah is an artist who makes art purely for the love of it. However, she struggles to gain any attention for her work, and as a result, struggles to maintain a living. So really, Leah is kind of like a modern representation of a starving artist. However, this segment isn't about Leah's financial/living situation. That's for later. Right now, we're looking at Leah's relationship with her toxic ex, Kel. Now, yes, for this, we are starting at Leah's 4th heart cutscene, as we are only going to be looking at cutscenes that are relevant to Kel. Anyway, Leah's 4th heart event starts off with you walking into Leah's house just as she's calling her ex, Kel, that she doesn't want to move back to the city and that he should just stop calling her. She then turns around, gets surprised by your entry, and asks if you overheard anything. After you explain that you overheard the ending of the call, Leah says that she was just on the phone with her ex, Kel, and explains how they used to have an apartment together back in the city. While Leah was living back in the city, she would work all day doing different jobs and then come home and work all night on her art. However, Kel would always be nagging Leah to go back to school and study something like medicine so that they would have enough money and be able to afford a normal life. Leah, however, of course did not like this idea at all. Living a normal mortgage, kids, and marriage life in the city was not for her. Damn, she liked me for real. And so, she came to Pelican Town to pursue her dream of being an artist. Once Leah has finished telling you all of this, you then get to pick one of 5 dialogue options. If you pick one of these 3, then yeah, she of course gets angry at you. But if you choose one of these 2 options, then Leah will thank you for being able to confide in you. Regardless of what option you pick, Leah goes on to tell you about how she's considering showing her art at the town's next showcase. So yeah, that was Leah's 4th heart event, which was necessary for me to show you so that you get a deeper grasp on Leah's character and a brief understanding of who Kel is. Now yes, once again we're skipping both of Leah's 6th heart cutscenes as they are simply just romance building scenes, and so we will instead focus on Leah's 8 heart cutscenes as this is where the real story lies. Anyway, this cutscene starts off in the middle of the town square where the town is gathered around multiple sculptures, with everyone having a good time. Except for this one random NPC standing off to the side of the event with his arms crossed. Now, who might this random NPC that we've never seen in any other part of the town or game before be? Well, that will be revealed in the next heart event that we look at, but yes, it's exactly who you think it is. But yeah, anyway, Leah greets you and thanks you for coming before addressing everyone in the crowd and doing the exact same. After some artsy yapping, Leah explains her intentions behind her sculptures and then once again thanks you for coming as you were the motivating reason behind her doing this show. The town then goes on to appreciate her art before the bidding process starts and the camera pans to the right while the scene fades to black. Now clearly, nothing too deep or personal was revealed in this cutscene. However, I have shown you it as it is integral to this next and final Leah heart cutscene. This cutscene starts off in Cindersap Forest with you walking up to Leah, who has set up a picnic in the middle of the woods. Leah's pretty happy with herself as this picnic was actually a surprise, and she goes on to tell you about the food that she prepared for you. This is a vegetable medley with my special spice blend, and this is a fresh salad made from greens that I foraged right here in the forest. But then, all of a sudden, Leah cuts the crap and starts telling you how she truly feels. Farmer, I just want to say thank you for helping me get one step closer to becoming a real artist. To which she then moves in for a kiss, that you of course take. However, as soon as you two embrace, you hear a distant voice start talking. Well, what do we have here? To which a particular person comes stomping out of the greenery from above. Kel? Leah exclaims. What the heck are you doing here? Didn't you see me at the art show? I came all the way from Zuzu City to see your sculptures, and to get you to come back with me. I want things to get back to the way they were. I miss you, babe. To which Leah rightfully responds with, yuck, don't call me that. You never supported my art before. Now that I've had some success, you want me back? You make me sick. And then she starts walking away from Kel. And so Kel shouts, hey, come here. Now, because Kel is harassing your new girl, you quickly walk up to him and get confronted with two options. Punch Kel in the face and try to reason with him. If you punch him in the face, then Kel instantly falls to the ground. Leah exclaims that was violent. However, Kel won't be bothering us anymore, and the two of you run away happily ever after. However, thankfully, if you try and reason with Kel, then he probably tries to say some dumb shit again, and as a result, Leah punches Kel right in the face instead. So yes, this was a pretty nice ending to Leah's troubles with her art and troubles with her ex. Now, honestly, I've never gone for Leah. However, after taking a deeper dive into her character, I definitely respect her, and I can confidently say that she is one of, if not the best written bachelorette/bachelor in the game. Her troubles with artistic expression are also pretty relatable to me as well. In the 1.5 update, Ginger Island was introduced, and so were these three mysterious looking NPCs. Now, we're looking at these two in the next two segments, so just forget about them for a second. The one that we're going to be focusing on right now is this elderly woman named Birdie. Birdie lives in a small hut on Ginger Island, and you first meet her while exploring the west side of Ginger Island. Now, yes, the first time that she meets you, she kind of gets a little bit surprised that there's another human around on the island, as she hasn't seen a visitor in many moons. Like, in her own words, she is almost forgot what other people looked like. Now, after the initial shock wears off, Birdie tells you how her husband was the captain of the ruined ship on the shore of the beach. However, as you can imagine, because, you know, the ruined ship, Birdie's husband has been dead for many years. And so nowadays she is instead left guarding his bones. She does, however, give you an item called the War Memento, while wistfully asking if you could find a memento of her long lost husband. Now, obviously, you have to give the War Memento to Kent. Duh. However, the problem here is that this is actually the longest quest chain in the game. And so, let me just quickly run you through it. So, you have to give the War Memento to Kent, who gives you the Gourmet Tomato Salt that you have to give to Gus, who then gives you a Stardew Valley Rose that you give to Sandy, because remember, she's not currently in Stardew Valley, duh. Who gives you a TV remote, which you then give to George, again, duh. He's the only fucking person in this game that uses a TV. Then George gives you a fucking Arctic Shard. Yes, an Arctic Shard. Where the fuck did he get that from? Which you give to the wizard, who gives you a Wriggling Worm, which you of course have to give to Willie, who finally gives you the Pirate's Locket. And then you just throw the Pirate's Locket in the trash. It's just fucking garbage. No, I'm just joking. What you actually have to do is, of course, give it to Birdie, who gives you fairy dust in return. Yes, fucking fairy dust. Like, what do you think this is, Birdie? Fairy Tale Land? Well, yes, it actually might be Fairy Tale Land or something, because fairy dust instantly finishes any item that you use it on. For example, if I have 54 casks full of ancient fruit wine, usually I'd have to wait 54 days for that wine to turn into iridium quality wine. It might not actually be 54, it might be like 56 days or something. I don't really care, I kind of just forgot off the top of my head. However, if you simply sprinkle a little fairy dust, just literal fairy dust, over these products, then they will be instantly finished. Also, I'm not actually sure if this cask example works. I'm pretty sure it does, but if it doesn't, I just kind of look stupid. But yeah, fairy dust just finishes anything that you use it on instantly, and as a result, well, the residents of Stardew Valley might be living in Fairy Tale Land or something, I don't know. Now, I may have said in my last Dark Side of Stardew Valley video that I do not care about Leo at all. In Pelican Town, there are two child inhabitants called Chaz and Vincent, and later in the game, Leo joins the town. But like, nobody cares about Leo, so that's not really important. But he does kind of fit the criteria to be in this video, so unfortunately, I do have to put him in. Basically, you first meet Leo on Ginger Island, where he reveals to you that his parents were lost at sea, and he now considers the parrots that inhabit the island as his family. Oh man, that's so fucking sad. Initially though, he is too shy to speak to the player until the player makes friends with the parrots, which is done by giving 10 golden walnuts to the first parrot outside by the turtle. Yes, the comically large turtle that's blocking your path. Duh. Now, after you've done this, Leo will finally open up to you and tell you all the information that I just told you about. The next few of Leo's cutscenes are also pretty sad, as they show Leo's struggles with loneliness and also his hardships of reintegrating into society. For example, in Leo's 4th heart event, he has trouble forming normal words, as he has spent the last couple of years of his short life speaking in squawks to communicate with his parrot friends. Fortunately though, Leo's story only gets better on from here on out, as after you gain 6 hearts with Leo, Linus invites him back to Pelican Town to stay with him, where Leo starts living in a literal treehouse, and a pretty cool one at that. And after he comes to Pelican Town, Penny starts tutoring him and taking him on trips with Jazz and Vincent, the other children in the town. And so, eventually, he does settle down and properly reintegrate back into society as a child. So now you're probably thinking, you were hating on a young lost boy who was seeking refuge on an mostly abandoned island after his parents died at sea. Well, yeah, that's exactly what I did. Yo, someone put that in the dark side of Mossy video. Actually, on that train of thought, what if we further dramatize that video by calling it something, I don't know, like Mossy Exposed? Oh wait, no, I'm crazy. What am I saying? That's actually already a video on my channel that you can just watch right now. Also, it's funny how young I look in the thumbnail of that, because I cut my hair and shaved like just before that, so I looked very different. Like, this is me a couple months later, and this is me on that thumbnail. Like, these look like two different people. Now, that is Leo's story, and I've already told you Birdie's story, but there's actually one more person on this island. That person being Professor Snail. Professor Snail is initially trapped in a cave behind a boulder until you blow it up and let him out. Now, after you blow it up and rescue him, he essentially becomes Ginger Island's Gunther, as when you rescue him, he explains that he has been sent here on an archaeological mission, and so he now runs a mini museum from his tent. But unlike Birdie or Leo, Professor Snail does not give extensive information on his background, so nothing about his past or anything. Professor Snail honestly becomes as mysterious as Gunther, as Gunther and Professor Snail both only give you one piece of information about them. The one piece? The one piece is real. In fact, after his initial cutscene with you, all that Professor Snail ever states is that he has been conducting a survey of the island's flora and fauna for a year. And that's it. The rest of his dialogue just gives you clues and hints on how to find different artifacts hidden around the island. But for me, all this does is prompt some very concerning questions. Like 1, he spent a year on the island or so does he know about Birdie? Does he know that some random old lady is living on the opposite side of the island, mourning the loss of her dead husband? And if not, if he doesn't know about Birdie, has he seen the shipwreck? Has he checked it out? Has he noted it? Has he explored it? Has he found any treasure? Does he just know anything about it at all? 3, I understand it's a big island, but he's on a discovery mission. So has he not realized that there's a literal orphan child living not too far away from him? 4, in all the archaeological findings that he's done, has he not found a single island scrap note, as those notes are written down by some explorer? And if he found one, it would kind of prompt more questions like, oh, if people explored this before, how many people have been there? These notes are old, how long have they been here for, etc. Also, the notes detail some of the more secret things hidden within the island. And now, 5, why the hell is he alone? Like, I know Ginger Island isn't the most dangerous island of all time, but still, to the outside world, it's probably considered as uninhabited, unless the location of the old woman and the orphan boy are just known and nobody gives a fuck about them. That seems kind of illegal, I feel like. So like, just for this to make sense, I'm going on the assumption that it's an uninhabited island to Professor Snail and whoever sent him his knowledge. And with that knowledge in mind, like, I wouldn't send one person, only one, on a discovery mission to an uninhabited island. I would be bringing at least like a small team or something. Like, you just don't know what's out there and what could go wrong, especially when you're alone on a practically deserted and probably uncharted island too. Doesn't seem very safe. And number 6, also, if we flip the question on its head, does Leo know about the old lady or the professor guy on the island? Does the old lady know about the orphan boy or the professor guy on the island? Like, I would assume not, but there are really some more concerning assumptions that could be made from this. So really, it does seem like there are some gaping plot holes in how they interact / coexist with each other. But hey, I guess that's what I get for looking way too deep into something that wasn't supposed to be looked at in the first place. Originally, this was a scrap segment from the Dark Side of Stardew Valley Part 2, as that video was already long enough, and I didn't think this segment had enough information to warrant it. However, I have since looked into it again and found more details, so here we go. Basically, I never really thought about it, probably until I read some random Reddit post or comment or something like that, but there's actually a level of poverty in Pelican Town. Most of what we're going to be looking at is some like lower middle class type financial problems. Like, some of it isn't poverty, some of it's just more troubles with money instead of like no money, but some of it is like legit like homelessness, so yes, some of it is definitely poverty. Anyway, the way that this is going to work is that we're going to be looking at individual characters at one time, so let's start with Leah. Okay, yes, I am recording this on a different day, that's why I look different today. But I just wanted to say, yesterday when I was recording, I was so tired because I've been out all week and doing shit. And yeah, I just looked dead inside yesterday. So yeah, I guess I just looked dead inside for half this video, but whatever. As we already know, Leah lives in her little cottage just outside of Pelican town. And as I alluded to earlier in the video, Leah isn't too well off financially speaking. She first alludes to this in her second cutscene when she says, although I have to admit, it's not easy to pay the bills as an artist. She later then reaffirms this narrative later in the cutscene when you tell her that she should sell her art online. However, she says she can't because buying a laptop would be way too expensive for her. Now, okay, you could simply argue that she lives in her cottage by choice, as nature is clearly one of her interests. However, when you marry Leah, she says, this house is a lot nicer than my old cabin. I don't miss it at all. So sure, she moved from the city to Pelican town because she hated the city, but she didn't want to live in that tiny ass cabin either. Now you know that I mentioned that nature and foraging is a huge part of Leah's life, like it's a huge interest to her. Well, this seems all wholesome and nice at first. However, there might be some concerning undertones to this, as there's a possibility that this interest may have developed from necessity rather than passion. Now sure, it could be both. I don't have definitive proof of either. However, looking at Leah's past and present financial situations, I don't think that it's too far off to say that Leah forages for food not just because she loves to, but because she has to. As sometimes it may be hard for Leah to put food on her own table, so she has to go out into the forage to find some. Now, I tell you all of this for more of a confirmation than anything, as when you start to look deeper into Leah's character, it all starts to make sense. Leah lives in a very small cabin outside of town, as it would be much more affordable for her to do so. And remember, this cabin is so small, it doesn't even have things like a toilet or kitchen. She loves foraging in nature, probably because it's a big interest of hers, but it's also necessary for her survival. As I said before, I don't think it's too far of a stretch to say that sometimes she just can't afford food. Especially because when she was living in the city, Leah was far well below well off. And this was with two different income sources, because remember, she was living with her ex back in the city and they both worked. Now, I think I said this at the start of the first segment, but this is all done on purpose, as Leah fits a modern representation of the starving artist archetype. And I think this is done because Concerned Ape himself, or should I say Eric Brony, as Eric himself would be filling this archetype right now if Stardew Valley never went on to become record-breakingly big. Now luckily it did, so we don't have to worry about that, but there's a timeline where he didn't. Now, I hate Elliot just as much as the next person, alright? He's so weird and just incredibly boring. However, as much as it pains me to say, Elliot does definitely have some amount of character to him. And throughout his whole character arc, he's essentially just writing a book. Unfortunately for you guys, I still paid him and he barely just fits into the segment, so yeah, it's gonna be pretty short. Basically, as I just said, Elliot lives in a small cabin on the beach, like a very small one, even smaller than Leah's cottage. And throughout the entire time, he is writing a book. So I'm guessing he doesn't have any form of employment or income, as he doesn't allude to it at all during his character development. So yeah, on first glance, Elliot very nearly fits into this category, almost the same as Leah. However, because he lacks dialogues about lack of money, his financial situation, or not liking his living situation, yeah, I think he's actually just doing fine. Now, cool we Captain Obvious here, but Pam and Penny live in a literal trailer. Now, I could go into detail of who Pam and Penny are, but I don't need to, as I've already done that in the Dark Side of Stardew Valley Part 2. Instead, I'll just give a little recap. Basically, Pam and Penny live in a trailer because Penny's dad, who I'm guessing was the financial support of the family, left when Penny was very young. And since then, Pam has never been able to recover and financially support Penny. Now, Pam not being able to recover from this mainly stems from 1, the fact that she is a raging alcoholic, and 2, Pam losing her job as a bus driver when the bus broke down. But how did the bus break down? Well, it's because she crashed it. That's right. Someone, Lewis, allowed the town drunk, like the known town drunk of the town, to drive the bus until she crashed it. Now, I would over-dramatize this point and stretch it out and make it more obvious and long for the viewer. However, I've already done that in the last episode, so I'm not going to go over it all again. So yeah, TLDR, Penny and Pam actually live in poverty due to paternal negligence and I guess maternal negligence too. Now this is a quick obvious one, but basically Linus is an old man that lives in a tent and forages for his food. I'm not going to talk about him anymore in this segment right now because that's for later, but yeah, Linus is an old man that lives in his tent which only eats foraged food. That's the only food that he gets. So by any normal measure of material wealth, Linus is definitely living in poverty. Now, this one is an obvious but unique case, because our little orphan boy Leo is unsurprisingly homeless. And as a result of this, he's completely broke. However, it's not because of normal circumstance, it's because he lost his parents when they crashed at sea. And as a result of that, he's been stranded on this deserted island. Now, yes, this is very sad, and also the Ginger Island characters kind of raise a number of plot holes, but I've already gone over that in this video. Like, that's not for right now. Right now, we are purely looking at Leo's financial state. And I just want to point out that because Leo does not live in normal circumstance, his financial circumstance doesn't actually impact him at all. As strangely enough, he doesn't even partake in a normal human economy, because, you know, he's kind of stranded alone on a deserted island. So strangely enough, Leo's brokenness does not affect him at all, at least while he's living on the island. I guess sure, he can't like buy food and he has to forage it instead, but he doesn't have to deal with the whole unemployment thing and buying a house and normal material purchases and how they impact someone in normal society. So we've been over a few characters already, some obvious, some not so, but what if I told you that there's actually one more character that we need to look at? That character being Gus, who suffers the same fate as many. Now this actually may be a surprise to you because Gus runs the Stardrop Saloon, like he runs his own local business, so you think he'd be doing well. However, in his 4th heart cutscene, he openly admits to having money problems. Now I'm not going to go over the entire cutscene right now, but basically what happens, just a little recap, you walk into the saloon and Gus isn't very happy. He tells you how the saloon's monthly earnings have plummeted because Pam hasn't paid off her tab in weeks. Gus, however, feels bad about asking Pam to pay off her tab as the two of them are friends. And so, because he knows Pam, he knows that she'll get defensive when he asks her about it. And that's when Pam storms into the saloon and you are confronted with 2 dialogue options. The first option is rather aggressive, just overly aggressive, and you lose a couple friendship points with Pam. And the second one is way more empathetic, and so you gain some friendship points with Pam. Either way, the outcome is the same. Pam pays off her tab and you live happily ever after at the end. Well, I mean, not happily ever after for Pam, because she's still a raging alcoholic. So yeah, that cutscene confirms Gus's poor financial state and his relationship with Pam. Like, I do think this cutscene definitely does double down on the fact that Gus isn't always too well off, because if one person in the entire town, if them not paying you off makes your monthly earnings plummet, that's a bit of a problem. Now I know it's because she's the alcoholic of the town, she drinks the most, but still, relying on one person for your whole business, like it's not a good idea. However, you remember how I said this was a scrapped segment from the second part of Dark Side of Stardew Valley that I made years ago? Oh yeah, there is one important tangent left over from that old script that I want to go over right now because it's interesting, so yeah, I'll just read it off my phone. And maybe even put it up on screen so you can read with me. Oh yeah, the tangent, by the way, was about Gus selling alcohol to Pam and the ethics behind it. With Gus selling alcohol to Pam, I don't think he does it with ill intention, as he himself admits to having this moral battle of feeding an addict their addiction, and on occasion, he even tries to get her to stop drinking so much. Even though it would devastate his business if Pam stopped drinking at the saloon, which is evident by the cutscene we just went over. But you have to remember, addicts are a different breed and not in a good way. Pam can't just stop drinking because addiction is a disease. So say for example, if Gus stopped selling alcohol or he closed down entirely, then Pam would just simply find another way to feed her alcohol addiction. So in this scenario, you simply just can't win. If Gus keeps feeding Pam alcohol, then he's technically enabling her addiction, but if he stopped feeding her alcohol, then not only would his sole source of income probably dry up, but Pam herself would simply find another way to feed her addiction. So this to me, it just seems like a shitty situation that you can't win. So yeah, I guess originally this segment was supposed to be more about the ethics of Gus selling alcohol to Pam, but then I went over and it kind of made it into how Gus is kind of not doing too well, like his financial situation, but I still had that left over. And I thought that was an important just thing to say and think about. So yeah, there you go. Now, I can't spot any more poverty in Pelican Town on like a surface level look, but now that I'm thinking about it, just look at Willie. Like, I know looks aren't everything, but does this look like a wealthy man to you? As most of you probably know by now, Abigail is Pierre's daughter. However, what you might not know is that they have a pretty strained relationship. And this is perfectly demonstrated in Abigail's 6 heart cutscene, which is what we're going to be looking at right now. The cutscene starts off with you walking into the graveyard at night with Abigail sitting down in front of a gravestone. She then sees you, gets up and starts laughing before starting a conversation. I guess you're wondering why I'm in the graveyard at this hour. Well, I'm here because it's the best place in town to find some privacy. Abigail then turns away and says, "And I'm all sweaty because I've been practicing my swordsmanship." After a blank reaction, Abigail gets angry at you and says, "Hey, what? You think I'm too weak to swing a blade?" She then apologizes and says, "Sorry, I guess I've been getting a little defensive. You see, I want to explore the mountain caves, but I know it's too dangerous to go there unarmed. You then walk closer to her and get to pick one of 4 dialogue options. If you pick one of the first 2 dialogue options, then you will gain plus 10 friendship points. If you choose the third choice, then Abigail of course gets angry at you and you lose 100 friendship points. And unsurprisingly, the last dialogue option is a neutral one. However, for the sake of this cutscene, we're going to choose the first one. Anyway, after picking the first dialogue option, Abigail says, "See? You understand why I'm out here," and then goes on to explain how she's lived her whole life in the valley and has never done anything memorable. Well, that's actually kind of sad. Abigail then starts saying how she wants to go on an adventure, but then, all of a sudden, the conversation is disturbed by a sudden shout from Pierre. "Abigail?" This of course freaks out Abigail, who shouts, "Dad!" before Pierre suddenly appears from behind a tree. "Your mother wants you to come home and help with dinner," Pierre says angrily. "What are you doing in the graveyard anyway? This is no place for a young lady." Now, on a side note, if I caught my child just hanging out in a graveyard at night, I'd be pretty freaked out too. Now, not because they're a young lady and they don't belong in this place, no. No matter the gender of my child, I'd be pretty freaked out because it's just fucking weird behavior. Like, if I find my child in the middle of a graveyard at night, then I'm running away at top speed because that's some horror movie shit right there. Anyway, after Pierre tells Abigail that she shouldn't be here, basically because she's a woman, Abigail gets extremely upset and shouts, "Mind your own business. You think that I should be at home cooking dinner because I'm a girl, don't you? You're really stuck in the past, Dad." To which Pierre then freaks out, Abigail says, "Let's get out of here," and then storms out of the cutscene. You then follow Abigail while Pierre shouts, "Come back," in desperation, and the cutscene fades to black. The cutscene then resumes, I guess in like a bush or something, where Abigail goes, "Can you believe that my parents were ever young? They don't understand my perspective at all. I know. They grew up in a different era with different values. It still ticks me off sometimes, okay?" Abigail then thanks you for hearing her out and the cutscene ends. Now, I'm actually glad that this ending exists, as it's a lot nicer. Instead of being like, "Dad, you're a misogynist pig, I hate you," it's more of like, "Yeah, okay, you're a bit sexist and I hate the fact that you are sexist. However, I understand that the reason that you are stems from the environment that you grew up in. And so, you have been conditioned by society at large to have different values on what a young lady should be than to me. And I really appreciate that added depth, as you can't really change anything without understanding the other person. Otherwise it will just be pure hatred and you won't be able to get past that." So yeah, if Pierre simply said that Abigail's mother wanted her to come in and help with dinner, then there would be some plausible deniability around it. Like, for example, you could say, maybe Abigail's mother just wants her only child to come help her cook dinner. That doesn't seem like an unreasonable request. However, from Pierre's later statements and Abigail's reaction, Pierre's request definitely comes more from a place of, "You're a woman and this is your job," than anything. But like, it's Pierre, he's a shitty human being, so really none of this surprises me at this point.
Now, earlier in the video, Mossy mentioned Gunther during Professor Snail's segment due to how mysterious he is, so let's talk about him. Gunther is the curator of the museum, and in your first cutscene with him, he tells you that the last museum curator owner guy ended up taking all the artifacts in the museum and running off with them, embarrassingly leaving Pelican Town's museum display completely empty. Now, this is obviously just a funny explanation for what artifacts and minerals are and why you have to donate them to the museum, and it also gives you an excuse to once again do everything in this town, by this point becoming a literal unlicensed archaeologist, just so you can bring the museum's display back to its former glory. Now, this may be a little bit of a tangent, but here's where it gets interesting. After this intro cutscene, it turns out that Gunther has no schedule and never leaves the museum at all. He also has no relations with any other character in the game, and is only mentioned once or twice in dialogue by Vincent, Jazz, and Penny. And this is only because Penny takes the kids, Jazz and Vincent, to the museum once a week. This lack of human activity in Gunther's life is so suspicious to some people that the most popular fan theory for Gunther is that he is simply a ghost. Now, I of course don't believe this theory, because it contains more plot holes than Gunther himself, and it uses unsubstantiated claims as evidence. Basically, Mossy already looked into this theory in detail in his Fan Theories Iceberg Part 1 video, which you should definitely check out, by the way, so I won't explain it properly here. But yeah, the fact that Gunther's most popular fan theory suggests that he's a ghost is definitely quite telling of Gunther's character, or lack thereof.
As I stated earlier in the video, Linus is a homeless man that lives in a tent up in the mountains. But if you don't know anything more about Linus, let me just list out these facts for you. Linus is a homeless man that lives in his tent up in the mountains. Most of the villagers are wary about him, probably because he's homeless and, you know, like the stigma around homeless people, etc. Except for the wizard, who is his only friend, which coincidentally, the wizard is also in the same boat as Linus, where all the townsfolk are also cautious of him. He helps you whenever you faint in the mines, which this, along with some dialogue, confirms that he's been down in the mines and explored them and is used to doing that kind of stuff. He has a strange connection to nature. This is evident by like basically all his dialogues. But what's interesting about this is that the wizard, remember his only friend, who also shares the same boat with townsfolk not liking him, the wizard also has a strange connection to nature, so that's, yeah, I guess some food for thought. Okay, this one's the most messed up. Someone throws rocks at his tent at night. Like, this is confirmed. This is confirmed from a piece of dialogue that Linus says. And I guess this person does it to further disadvantage him by either destroying his tent or just being a nuisance at night. Which, like, it's never confirmed who it would be, and it's not even, like, a clear candidate. Because, this sounds like some, like, the behavior of, like, a dropkick, like, teenager, right? However, there's no teenagers in the town. There's only kids and young adults, and then, like, old people and middle-aged people. There's no, like, teenagers. And so I guess you kind of have to go and look at who's the biggest jerk in the town. And I guess that would be Morris. Remember, Morris is the general manager for the Joja Corp store in Pelican Town. And I guess there's some reasons for and against both sides. So let's just start with 4. I guess, well, 1, Morris is a very big jerk. He just loves to be a dick to people. And 2, he works for Joja. Remember, Joja is a soulless big corporate entity and he's the manager for it. So, you know, therefore he's probably also somewhat soulless and greedy and caught up in the whole capitalistic nature of everything. And so throwing rocks at Linus's tent, in other words, would be throwing rocks at someone who opposes what he stands for. So if you think that Morris is the one throwing rocks at Linus's tent, I guess it's not the worst theory in the world. However, this also doesn't make sense because, like, he doesn't own fucking Joja Corp, he's just the manager of it. And although he's a jerk, he doesn't quite seem like the type to, at night, just go out of his way to go up into the mountains. Remember, he's up in the mountains, he'd have to do a fair walk. Go up into the mountains, find the tent of the one homeless man in town, and then throw rocks at him for some reason. Like, that, what do you achieve from that? There's also, like, no proof or even clues or hints of them doing that in cutscenes or dialogue or anything. Like, not even Linus knows who throws the rocks at his tent. So yeah, it just doesn't make sense. And I guess the other annoying guy in the town that I could think of off the top of my head was George. However, he's literally a cripple. Like, he has to use the wheelchair to move, you know, because of a mining accident. So thinking that a senior citizen would just roll up, like literally roll up to the mountains at night to throw rocks at a homeless man that, like, none of them have beef with, like, personal beef that we know of. It just doesn't make sense. So yeah, someone throws rocks at Linus's tent. This is actually just a big mystery. I genuinely, after researching this game for hundreds of hours and putting out theories on this channel that have got hundreds of thousands of views that were well thought out, I cannot for the life of me, like, conjure up a proper reasonable answer for who throws the rocks at his tent. So yeah, I have no clue. Anyway, that was a bit of a tangent. But the next Linus fact is that apparently, according to Linus, he is homeless by choice. Which is a bit odd. Like, yeah, right, buddy. You're homeless by choice and I'm 5'2" by choice. Like, yeah, we totally got to choose that, didn't we? Like, I don't know. To me, it kind of seems like a weird cope. As some people pointed out in my Linus video, the homeless by choice thing might just be a cope. Like, by circumstance, he ended up homeless. But then to cope with the whole thing, he said to himself that, like, oh, I'm homeless by choice, guys. Like, yeah. So yeah, option A is that's just a weird cope. But there's actually a second option, which is option B, which he's actually telling the truth, which is interesting to think about. Because on, like, surface level look, this seems all very weird and yeah, it just seems like a cope. But when you compile all the things that I just said about him, like him not being liked by the townspeople, being having a great connection to nature, being great friends with the wizard, who also has those other 2 things in common with him, and like being homeless by choice and going to the mines and all those kind of things, when you piece them all together into a fan theory, they actually make sense. And I've actually already done this in my video called Solving the Mystery of Linus and M.Jasper. As in this video, I pieced together all these things plus more into one big comprehensible video that reveals the identity of M.Jasper and fully explains Linus's story. Now, you're probably thinking that this is just some shameless plug, but I'm serious. I am not saying this just because it's my video and I want you to watch it. I'm serious in saying that this video does actually really help solve Linus's mystery. So if you're interested in who Linus really is and also M.Jasper, maybe you've heard about them before or maybe you haven't, go check out this video after because it's one of my best. Like, okay, it's really old, so my voiceover and editing wasn't the best, but like, because of the information within it and the conclusion that I draw, it's probably one of my favorite videos. Now, usually this is where this type of segment would end. As usually, I look at all the pieces of the puzzle and try and piece them together into some kind of fan theory or something. For example, like what I've already done with Linus. I think I'm having a stroke trying to say this word. I just try to say it 30 times and now it doesn't sound like a word anymore. However, Linus's mysterious nature and overall ambiguity, I think that's how you say it, might actually be intentional, as maybe his character isn't actually meant to be taken literally. Maybe, just maybe, his character is actually a symbol for A, the stigma around homeless people, which can be expanded into B, the stigma around societal outcasts, such as him, for being homeless, and the wizard, I guess, for being fucking weird, but we'll get into that later. And C, the Industrial Revolution and its consequences. Now, of course, I kind of say this in a lighthearted manner, but also not really, because Linus's overall message is that he is a character who has a great connection to nature, and this connection to nature feeds Linus's soul with way more fulfillment than any of this corporate bullshit could ever. Linus living alone in nature, just sitting there connecting with it, really provides him way more fulfillment than he could ever achieve living in modern society. And this makes sense, as really, we're not built for the modern world, we're built for nature, as that's where we come from. Now, if you know me, IRL, let's just be honest for a second, I'm probably on the spectrum, okay? And as a result, I often take random things that just completely random way too literally when they shouldn't be. And so I've always looked at Stardew Valley fan theories head on and as logically as possible. As why shouldn't I? That's just simply how my brain works. Before the segment, I'd never really thought about these theories or anything like that in a different way. However, now that I finally have, I can start to see just how much hidden symbolism is in Stardew Valley, as not all of the characters are meant to be taken literally. Some are literal representations of real-world characters, but not all of them. Some characters are more of an amalgamation of multiple things, and are instead references to various topics and issues in the real world. Okay, so there's actually a couple more little dark things in Stardew Valley, but they either, 1, aren't long enough to have their own segment, or 2, are more not really that dark, they're more grey side material, which you'd know what I'm talking about if you watch the second part of this series. Or 3, they're just both. So yeah, this is going to be a very quick segment of me just going through some stuff. So number 1, the wizard is sus. Now, he keeps constant surveillance of all the townsfolk, that's weird. He is weirdly magical, which I've already talked about. He has that weird connection with nature. Again, you can just watch the Linus video if you want a more in-depth explanation. But yeah, he has all these magical powers and they're very mysterious, and he never tells you why he has them or how he has them, and it's, very magical, weird, and mysterious. And also number 3 is that he went through a divorce with the witch. There's a witch in the game. There's a 1% chance in your farm or something like that she can come over and curse your animals or some shit. I think she just spawns a void egg in your coop. Nothing really bad. But the reason why she exists, according to the game, is that she used to be the wizard's wife. However, something happened and they divorced, and she got really mad, and now she's she was so angry. She got so angry about the whole thing that she turned into a witch, ugly witch, and now runs through the countryside cursing everything in a way. Which this kind of raises some interesting questions, why did they get a divorce? Who's at fault? Is it one of the other? Are they both at fault? Because we don't really know anything about the witch. However, if you remember all the way back to the Dark Side of Stardew Valley Part 1, I'm pretty sure that this was the first segment in that video. But basically, Abigail is the wizard's daughter. You remember this? It's a popular fan theory that is basically confirmed in the game that says Abigail is not Pierre's daughter, but instead the wizard's daughter, because Caroline cheated on Pierre with the wizard. However, because of the wizard and witch thing, what possibly could have happened is that not only did Caroline cheat on Pierre with the wizard, but the wizard cheated on the witch with Caroline. It's coming full circle now. Now, we can't confirm this because we don't know when they were together. This could have happened after the witch and wizard split, but if they were together when this happened, then this is a surefire way to cause a divorce. All right, second one I'm going to be looking at is Demetrius. Demetrius is a bitch-ass parent. I already looked at this in part 2, but I just wanted to say it again and emphasize it because, he is just a bitch. Vincent. Okay, Vincent has some sad dialogue that we're going to look at now. Actually, I have to explain. Remember, Vincent lives with Jody, Kent, and Sam. Sam's his older brother, Kent's his dad, and Jody is his mother. Now, we already looked at Kent and Jody in the first part, so you should remember this, but basically, Jody hates her life, she's depressed, and Kent, he comes back from the Great War that's going on in year 2, and he, of course, comes back severely traumatized. And when you have that in mind and you read these dialogues from Vincent, it's very sad. Dad's coming back soon. I hope he brings me some toys. Dad's not around much. I miss playing with him. This is before Kent returns. Then after he returns, he says, I'm glad Dad's back, but he's different than I remember. And then this final 8-heart plus dialogue from Vincent says, Dad seems weird since he came back. I wonder what happened to him. He doesn't want to play with me anymore. Which, that's so sad. That's really sad. I don't think I need to further dramatize or point out that at all. You can see why that's so sad and probably emphasize with it. So we will instead look at this last dialogue from him that says, "You're not as boring as most grown-ups." That's when he says that when he's talking to you. But I want to point this out because this is probably a reflection of Jodie. Because remember, Jodie hates her life. She's depressed. She's also probably a pretty boring person to Vincent. So this dialogue's more of a reflection of his mother than anything. The last two little things I want to say is that Emily and Haley's parents are never home. Now, they're not kids or even teenagers. You can marry them, so I'm guessing they're at least young adults. But yeah, they just live in their parents' house still, but their parents are never there. Apparently they're out somewhere. I forgot the law. I think it's like a vague dialogue from one of the two of them. But yeah, no, that's kind of more grey side material. It's just kind of weird. Like, what are they doing? Where are they? Are the parents still together? I don't know. Just, many questions could spawn from this. And the last thing from this is about Alex. Now, I think I looked at him in the part 2. Yeah, I think in Darkside part 2, Yama did a segment on him. But that was about him, like his mother dying and shit. We're not going to look at that right now. We already looked at that. What we're going to look at right now is that Alex has big aspirations to make it in, what is it called? I don't remember what it's called. Basically, it's like a sport that the town loves. I guess it's their national sport. Their national sport in this game, I'll just put it up on screen if I remember if it's in the game. But yeah, Alex essentially wants to become a big player at whatever their national sport is. However, this is in grey side material because I don't think he ever makes it. I think he eventually just has to give up stream, which is kind of sad, but that's life. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that is every dark tidbit in Stardew Valley. Now, I do personally have a tendency to either brush over small details or like randomly fixate on them entirely. So yeah, I could have missed something. If I did, comment it down below just so I'm aware of it. However, I'm pretty sure that is every single major dark aspect of Stardew Valley covered. And with that, I do sadly have to announce that the Dark Side of Stardew Valley series has finally come to an end after like 3 years or something. And this is because I won't be making a part 4 because, as I said, I've already gone over everything. The only reason why I would ever make a part 4 is because if Concerned Ape adds a ton of new characters with big dark backgrounds in a newer update, then it would make sense to put it in. But considering I've spent hundreds of hours researching him and his game, I can confidently tell you that he won't. It's way too time intensive for what you get out of it. That's already why he doesn't add new NPCs to the game. Like, okay, he does occasionally, like in Ginger Island, he added 3. However, only one of them really has a lot of cutscenes and backstory. One of them is literally just Gunther, so he has nothing. And then the other one is Birdie, who he gives you like 1 or 2 cutscenes. Yeah, it gives you 2 cutscenes and a couple dialogues. Like, adding in fully fledged characters is like a very time intensive job. And so I can confidently end the series knowing that he won't add heaps and heaps of more characters. Like if he adds 1, boo-hoo, who cares? I know I don't. He would have to add a lot, like I don't know, 5 or 10 characters for me to warrant an entire video. So yes, this series is coming to an end. However, don't worry if you love this kind of series. Don't worry because I already started the Dark Side of Stardew Valley expanded series, which I've already done 1 part, and I think there's at least another one. There could be 2 more parts, but I'm pretty sure there's already another part that I haven't done yet. Of course, knowing how I roll, I just don't upload for months at times sometimes. So yeah, that series still needs to finish. And I also have some new Dark Side adjacent videos in the works that I really want to do. Like, they're not exactly a Dark Side. I mean, some of them are Dark Side videos, but some of them are related to the Dark Side series, name, franchise, whatever you call it, in some capacity. So although the Dark Side of Stardew Valley series is ending, and as a result, I'll make a full movie video that I'll upload to YouTube so it's easier to watch. I'll cut out all the crap. From the death of the series births new life, as I'm back on my shit again, and I've actually found ways to consistently make videos. Also, let me just get on my Wendigoon shit real quick, and just from the bottom of my heart, thank you for watching. I just want to say in 2021, I uploaded the first video, and this was so long ago, I had like a couple hundred subs, maybe, I don't know, 400 or 500 subs max. That's how much I had when the video was uploaded. And when I uploaded the video, it was doing normal. It was getting, a couple hundred views maybe, and then it can just completely died because what happened is the day I uploaded it, YouTube went down, and when YouTube came back on, it kind of just had killed my video because YouTube had been down and it just taken it out of the algorithm, which was very unfortunate because I spent so long on the Dark Side of Stardew Valley video, and I just knew, as a YouTube creator, sometimes you just know when a video is going to do well, and I just knew that video was going to do well, so I was just so just disheartened when it didn't do well. Now, I think that was in May. However, in I think July of that same year, I uploaded the Audio Stardew Valley Pain in one video, and yeah, the rest is really just history. As that gave me like 100k views on my channel in one day. It was something crazy like that. Remember, at this point, my biggest video probably had like 30k views, so 100k on one video in a day was just like mind-blowing. I actually might have been like 70 or 80k, but it was still something really insanely huge at the time. And when you get one big video, all the rest of your videos on the channel go up. And so that finally revived the Dark Side of Stardew Valley video. And nowadays, as I'm recording this, part 1 sits over 1.8 million views, and part 2 sits over 700,000 views. So once again, thank you. This series has honestly changed the course of my life forever. And I'm not actually being dramatic when I say that. I'm being quite real.